welcome. And first and foremost, I want to thank you both for stepping up and stepping forward and deciding to run for office. I know that's a decision that no one takes lightly. There's a lot of factors that go into making such a decision, and we just really appreciate your willingness to serve and represent the community. As we talked about a little bit before we went live, we want this forum to be more of a conversational style forum. We really want it to be an opportunity for the residents of Manvel to get to know you better, to learn the qualifications that you will bring to Manvel City Council, as well as the vision that each of you have for the city of Manvel. So with that, why don't we get started, and we'll just delve into the questions. One thing about the questions, we solicited questions for the candidates from our chamber members, specifically from our Governmental Relations Division. So we have a great list of questions here that we want to get through as many as we can. So we'll start it off. Niccole, if you don't mind, I'll refer to you as Niccole, and we'll start with you with question number one. And just tell us about yourself, why you decided to run for City Council, and what qualifications that you will bring to that council position and that would benefit the city of Manvel and its residents.
Okay, well, hi everyone. My name is Niccole Tyson. I've lived in Manvel with my husband and son for a little over 5 years. I have extended family who lives here in Manvel, as well as, I currently work here in Manvel at New Hope Church as the director of events. I'm also a licensed real estate agent and primarily serve this area, and also serve as a committee member on the PD&Z board here in Manvel, so Planning, Development, and Zoning Board. I decided to run for city council simply because I just love the city. I mean, I believe that's what the city needs right now. This is my home. People that I love and so many that I'm close with are here, and I'm just passionate about being a part of the direction that we're going and, working for everyone. As far as qualifications go, my current position at the church has just really given me a lot of experience working with people, really keying in on organization and leadership skills, in addition to giving me a lot of opportunities to serve locally. And then, of course, being in real estate, that's given me so much exposure to just the lay of the land and an understanding of what homeowners are looking for and what concerns they have. And it's also allowed me to have a pretty solid understanding of local taxes and floodplains, which we all know is an issue here. But however, I'd say that being, involved with the zoning board is probably, has been far best learning experience for me. I've been able to just see what they're currently developing and, view proposals for future projects. And then of course, form relationships with some of the people that I could potentially work with. So I think that would really help me to be productive fairly quickly if I was elected.
Very good. Very good. How long have you been on the Planning and Zoning Board?
A little over a year.
Very good. I know y'all see a lot of interesting things come through, so thank you.
Oh, yes. It's very insightful for sure.
Wonderful. And Mr. Perry, we'll turn it over to you in terms of just, give us a little bit more background on you and your qualifications and kind of what you might see as your vision for the city.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you. I appreciate the invitation. So my name is Edward Perry, or Ed Perry. And I'm also a resident of Manvel. I've been here a little over 5 years, but I'm also a product of Brazoria County. I graduated from Angleton High School, so my family and extended family have been in this area for quite some time. I'm running because as a resident of Manvel, I live here with my family. We love the area. It's perfect for our present and our future. I want to make sure that we have a community that not only I'm proud of, but that our children and our children's children will also be proud of it. I also want to make sure that, the needs that exist in our community, that we work to meet those needs in a way that's, both fiscal, environmentally responsible. And so some of the skills that I would bring to the table is that I have a science degree in organizational management. I've worked a number of years on project management and resource management. Got about 20 years experience in military finance and accounting and resource management. currently work for an agency where we deal with adjudication. So understanding of federal regulations and being able to apply them correctly is one of my strong suits. And basically, my experience in education has taught me to be able to see the big picture and bring to the table critical thinking, being able to strategically plan, based upon the information that's provided, and then work together with the team to reach the overarching goal that we're focused on. And so Manvel is a great city. As we say, it's a city on the rise. It has a great future. And I just want to join in and help the team that's already in place to continue forward in making it the great city that we know it is and will continue to be.
Very good. As a follow-up to that, you mentioned, needs of the city, growing needs. You mentioned your, financial and project management experience. And that's the next question that was submitted is, as Manvel grows, obviously so do the needs of the city, particularly the financial needs of the city. And one of the questions that was submitted is, with the recent budget passing, how would you approach the next budget season to prepare for the future, particularly as Manvel grows by leaps and bounds? And I'll direct that to you, Edward, to go first.
Okay. Well, so when we talk about, we use the term city on the rise, and Manvel is a great community, but we do realize there are a lot of infrastructure needs that exist, public works, utilities. So there's a lot of things that need to be put in place to help us control and manage the growth that is taking place within the city. So when you talk about infrastructure, it's expensive. So, well, there are a couple of things that we need to do in as far as balancing off the costs is we need to make sure that we get that infrastructure in place, that we plan it properly so that we can attract more economic development, so that there can be a balance off as far as our tax base, where it's not just residential property tax, but also that we can draw from retail sales tax. And it's also important that while the growth is so phenomenal now, that we properly plan it and pay those monies that we have to pay on the front end, rather than allowing the growth to get away from us. It's a very bad thing to have to retrofit after the fact. If the growth has moved on its own without us properly managing and controlling it, and then you're trying to find ways to corral it and keep it in control as far as traffic and things of that nature. So we would have to balance it by making sure we get the proper infrastructure in place, draw in the right economic development, and then diversify, the sources that we're using to fund these projects.
Very good. Really appreciate your comments around balancing that and you're drawing in additional businesses or supporting, the growth of our existing businesses. Do you have any specific ideas in terms of, going back to the budget of, preparing for the future while, potentially lessening the burden on current taxpayers for that future growth and, finding that balance?
Okay. So when you look at the various capital improvements that are going to need to take place, both short-term and long-term, there are a couple of things that we can look at. So, of course, I talked about economic development. So if we work in concert with area chambers and other partners in the area to do things that are going to attract businesses that will be successful, that will bring in revenue, and of course, sales tax revenue, that will ease the burden. The other thing is, as the community is growing and the more we develop it, obviously, the appraisals are going to be higher. So as there's more residential property and the property values go up, you can lower the tax rate in order to get the monies that you need to accomplish the capital improvements that you need to accomplish. And likewise, if the economic development advances and you have that more sales tax revenue, again, that can balance it off. And then there are also alternative methods of financing or funding these projects. So we may want to look to what's available through state grants, through federal grants, pass-through grants from the federal government to the state. where the law allows it, partnering with even private entities in order to get the funding so that the full weight of it is not upon the shoulders of our residents and their residential property taxes, and maybe even lessen the burden of taking out a debt through, certificates of obligation or general obligation bonds, whichever route we would take, so that we're not leaving a lot of debt in the long term to our children and our children's children.
Very good. I'll turn it over to you now, Niccole. The same question around, the growing financial needs of the city, and just how do you balance that, particularly potentially while, lessening the burden on current taxpayers for that future growth.
Okay, I definitely agree with Ed. The infrastructure definitely needs to have, we need to tend to that for sure, because the burden really does appear to be on the homeowners. I also believe that we do need to balance that by just opening the door and allowing businesses in so that tax burden can be shared between the two. Our city is in a prime location. We have a lot of people looking to locate to the area, and they're going to want to be able to access those goods and services that they need. So it helps our residents, and ultimately it's just going to help the bottom line in terms of the budget as well.
Right. Very good. And I'll kind of keep us on this topic. You both have mentioned, supporting local businesses and obviously trying to attract new businesses. Our chamber, the Alvin Manvel Area Chamber of Commerce, we're obviously focused on supporting our member businesses. The overwhelming majority of those, which are small businesses, located in the city of Alvin and the city of Manvel. Do you see a role for the city, in terms of encouraging more small business growth or more small business development in the next few years? And I'll start with you, Niccole.
Okay, yeah, there's no denying that we need small businesses, and that's important. I believe that we can, support those businesses in the growth here in our town by allowing those developers in to build the space that they need. Those businesses need and can rent and use, and they can reinvest into our city. And but at this time we're kind of limited in what we can offer as far as storefronts go. I also believe that this is a desire that the city has, simply because of how staff and council work together to develop the Manvel Town Center. Small business was definitely considered for that project, which really gives me hope that they intend to continually, build on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very good. How about you, Edward?
Well, I agree with Niccole. Some of the plans that are already in place are going to help facilitate that. But one of the things when you're talking about attracting small business, market needs are very important. One of the key aspects of business is the economic concept of supply and demand. So, one of the things that I feel are the roles that the city can play is, I always believe when you're talking about attracting businesses to your area, as a city or as city leaders, a SWOT analysis needs to take place. We need to be able to identify what strengths, what weaknesses, what opportunities, and what threats may be posed to small businesses that are coming in, because the key is you don't want them to just come in, but you want them to be successful, so that you can derive that revenue. So partnerships with the chamber, assisting them. We have the Manvel Economic Development Corporation. So assisting them such that not only will they be able to open the businesses, but they'll also be able to maintain them. I mean, when you look at statistics, 90% of small businesses, don't make it. Only 50% of them make it to 5 years, and only 40% of them turn a profit. So, the best thing that we can do is not only, use our planning and zoning, using the Economic Development Corporation to provide information that's going to be crucial to these businesses, but we've also got to make sure that the zoning fits what's going to be attracted, into the community. One of the resources that I always feel is good, and I think the city can draw upon it and help promote it, is the small business development SBDC that we have over at Brazosport College. They'll help businesses with business plans. They'll help you research the market to make sure that what you're offering is something that people are actually going to purchase, because you don't want to go into all that capital overhead and then find out no one's going to come to your store. So the city can partner in making sure and promote it, digital media. We can have Shop Manvel Day because it's important to keep circulating those dollars into our community. And so I'll stop there. But there are a lot of things that we can do to aid and assist in that happening.
Very good. One thing that we, and I'm sure you all hear it, when you're out in the community as well, is, we really need a grocery store in the city of Manvel. I know the chamber's heard that many times of, how are you all working to get a grocery store, into the city. So it's one thing we wanted to make sure and touch on, and kind of hinted around the edges of it. But Edward, if you want to start, maybe just give us a little bit background, in terms of your philosophy on local government and the free market and the city's kind of role that they play to encourage. So let's say a grocery store in this example to come. Specifically, should the city try to incentivize certain companies or certain industries to come into the city and choose Manvel as a location?
Well, the truth of the matter is, if you look at our economy, government has always intervened to some degree in the free market, whether it's through tax incentives, raising or lowering of taxes, giving tax breaks, with the Federal Reserve, whether it's increasing or lowering interest rates to promote spending and borrowing. Even setting price and floor ceilings for certain products. So there's intervention. So at the local level as well, I do feel that we have to be smart about it. If you're going to incentivize a particular business, you want to make sure that the return on the investment is going to be worth whatever incentives that you offer. And again, it goes back to making sure that we assist these potential business owners or investors in making sure that there's a market for the product that they want to sell, because incentivizing and then the business is not successful, that's not a good return on the investment. So I do agree with some form of intervention.
Very good. We'll turn it over to you, Niccole. What is your thought around the city getting involved in incentivizing businesses to choose Manvel?
Typically, the less government intervention is always best, but we do need businesses here. So if a tax break is something that we needed to consider short term, and like he said, with a return, in order to get them here, then that's just what we would have to do. But I don't necessarily believe that that's something that we would need. Would I be willing? Yes, but I don't know if that's something we need. The consumers are here, so it's kind of, again, a win-win for everyone.
Right. And just trying to find that balance of the growth that is coming.
Yeah.
How much should the government be involved in that growth or whatnot? So.
Right.
Very good. One thing we touched on earlier is, the city obviously having a vision. You referenced, Edward, the city on the rise, which Manvel certainly is. And we know that, the city of Manvel has set certain goals and they've achieved certain goals over the past several years. What do you think, Niccole, would be additional goals that you as a city council member would want to set that you all as a city could work on to achieve?
Well, I would say, just balance again, balance between residents and the businesses. We really just need to work harder to bring those here and get that into the equation, especially if we're able to achieve that while staying true to that small town feel, which is what I know a lot of people love about Manvel. And we're just really at that tipping point. Businesses wait to come to an area until people are there and people need them. And right now, a lot of us drive to Pearland or other neighboring cities to spend our money, and balancing those two while being able to reap the benefit of the local revenue that again is the win-win.
Very good. How about you, Edward?
Yeah. So I know the city has a formidable list of plans and goals that they've already set, but I guess there's something additional, making sure that there's sustainability. We're investing a lot of money in and plan to invest a lot of money even further in infrastructure and development. So I agree with Niccole, there needs to be a balance. So one of the things, when you talk about the environment of a small town, many times it's not just population and size, but it's the culture and the behavior of the community. So one of the things that we can strive for as far as the city or the city council is to make sure that we bring the community together and develop that culture and nurture that culture. Mm-hmm. I like the Christmas parade and things like that. So maybe we could institute some more throughout the year, like festivals and events, especially when we have the facilities that would bring the entire community together, regardless of what area you live in or what your background is, and just explore those cultures and develop some traditions that will maintain and sustain that small town feel, that interaction, that feeling of community.
Right, and just that culture and creating kind of a unique culture that people want to be involved in and kind of gravitate towards. I totally understand what you're saying. Let's shift a little bit. We've talked about infrastructure, we've talked about growth. The other kind of key issue that the chamber has really been highly involved in, and particularly advocacy around, is transportation projects. And most recently, the chamber's been very involved with the Grand Parkway, specifically Segment B, and advocacy of bringing that through, from Fort Bend County over to Brazoria County and then ultimately Galveston County. So why don't we talk a little bit about transportation? And Edward, we'll start with you. Specifically, what would your vision be, for local mobility? And obviously, we know with transportation projects, you have the local entity, you have the state entity, and oftentimes you have a federal entity that are involved in those road projects. But if you want to just touch on transportation and mobility in general, and
Sure.
how Manvel needs to approach that area, particularly as the growth is coming.
Okay, so that takes me back to the concept of controlled growth. You want to make sure that you're phasing and developing in a manner that you don't create transportation issues that literally become a nightmare and counteract the amenities that you're providing. And so I believe we need to either foster or continue good relationships with those individuals at the state and federal level, have a line of communication as it pertains to like the major roadways, 288, Highway 6. But for the local, some of the things we can look at is how to mitigate some of that traffic. So I would want to get together with the subject matter experts, the professionals that work at the city, traffic studies and surveys, so we can anticipate, what particular development or a specific type of development, what it will generate in traffic. We already know that there's tens of thousands of car trips per day already, 288 and Highway 6. We could even look into incorporating, someone like me for my health that needs to walk more. So some of that development so that it would incorporate pedestrian trails or bike trails, to help mitigate some of that traffic and the traffic flow. But you really have to do a detailed engineer study, use historical data, forecasting, as well as what's happening now, so that you make sure you can mitigate what traffic increases, the flow, the easements, the right-of-ways.
Yeah, very good. How about you, Niccole? You may have dealt with this already a little bit on Planning and Zoning Commission. Can you speak to transportation?
Yes, I definitely agree with him. We're actually already, I feel like we're seeing some of that, like where I live in Lakeland, our neighborhood dumps out into roads that were not intended for the amount of traffic that's on them, that's for sure. But in partnerships, yes, for sure, they're a great thing. And thankfully, Highway 6 is large enough right now to handle the amount of traffic it sees every day, but I grew up in Pearland, and for a long time, and sometimes still now, it feels like 518 was the only option to go from one side of the town to others, leaving it so congested all the time. So I'd really just like to, a specific view would, I guess, be to see, several roadways leading towards 288, taking the burden off of some of those roads that have become more high traffic due to those new residential developments and that were not originally designed for that. But I do know that, the city itself also has a thoroughfare plan. And so I believe that this is a shared goal as well.
Very good, very good. We'll start with you, Niccole, on the next question and shift a little bit. Obviously, flood mitigation, drainage issues are critical to our region, critical to the city of Manvel. If you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about, what you know about, flooding, the drainage issues in Manvel, and perhaps some creative solutions that you would propose to address some of those issues.
Okay, being in real estate, looking at mapped floodplains and just knowing that if a property is previously flooded is key. And it's one of the first questions that a buyer asks about a property. And Manvel includes several floodplains, which means that its drainage issues are not going away and it's going to have to be revisited on an ongoing basis. So, the only way I could really see this being remediated would be to work into future future drainage and retention, a way to fix some of these areas from worsening, using those developments to help that. So I guess my creative solution would just be to use the new development to assist more than just itself, rather focus on, to a degree, on how it will affect the properties that surround it.
Right, right. What are your ideas around, more regional approaches where, the city of Manvel is obviously working with the city of Alva and obviously working with the city of Pearland, even further upstream, if you will, Sugarland and whatnot. Can you speak to that a little bit?
In regards to the partnerships with them, or how?
Yeah, right. Like looking at flooding and flood mitigation for more of a region.
Yeah.
We all need to work together versus just.
Definitely. Well, and it kind of goes into that same thing where, as we're building, being considerate of what is around us, how it affects others, and what we can do with those areas that are connected between the cities, and really just kind of build off of that.
Very good. How about you, Edward? What would you have to add with regards to flooding?
Well, of course, being familiar with Brazoria County and the area, we know that that's an ongoing issue and it's existed for years, decades. And with the increased intensity of storms, the increase in rainfalls, and the increase in development, because the more concrete you put down, that water has to find a way to flow, and it's going to take the least path of resistance. So the whole goal is to make sure everything flows down and out and makes it down to the Gulf down in the South. So partnerships, definitely. We have our drainage districts in the counties that manage the various waterways. So we may have to look at, so that the water, the storm, the overflow from heavy torrential rains and from storms, so that it can expeditiously move down down those waterways that the drainage district controls. But we're also going to have to look at our infrastructure. Some of the newer planned developments, as the city is working with them, of course, there are requirements that they put in place, but we also have areas that are not part of that newly planned development. So we may have to go in and implement more infrastructure there as far as pipes and drainage ditches are concerned. But, there's also something, and they say think outside of the box. So it may be a little out there, but a lot of what we're talking about is what we call gray infrastructure, and it's very expensive. So you're going to have to find a way to fund it. So even partnering with the drainage districts in the counties, but some of the green infrastructure things that we could at least explore. This may seem crazy, but even rainwater harvesting, and I'm not just talking about a barrel in your backyard. There's studies where large cisterns, are set up by cities so that they can actually catch, some of that rainwater that's flowing, that excess, and it could literally be used for irrigation, firefighting, flushing toilets, other necessities for wastewater. We could also look at or explore something called permeable pavement. So as opposed to concrete, this permeable pavement, if it has the structure to sustain our roadways and what we're building, it would actually allow the water to go through some of those pavements in a permeable manner. And then it could actually do some of the natural filtering that happens when the water actually goes into the ground, and vegetation, plant more trees, community gardens, vegetation. So just, maybe supplement some of that gray infrastructure with green infrastructure and protect the environment and less pollution in those waterways with the runoff.
Very good, very good. Another question that we had submitted from our chamber membership speaks to, working with other members on city council. Obviously, whichever you view is elected, you will be, one person in a 7-person team on city council. So the question is, how will you work with the other elected officials, the city staff, and other entities, but also still keep that balance? We keep kind of coming back to that word, keep that balance of, your own unique individuality, your own, priorities, and as well as your own leadership style. And Edward, we'll start with you on that one.
Okay. Well, it was always a goal, on my report cards to get marked plays well with others. So the thing of it is the city council is a team. As you say, it's a team of 7. You've got the city staff, and even greater than that 7-member team and the city staff, you've got professional consultants. The whole point is, we have to remain focused on the overarching goal that we're trying to accomplish in the development and the sustainment and the maintenance of the city of Manvel and providing services to our residents. So while yes, I can still remain unique, I can bring my ideas and experience to the table, my opinions, my observations. At the end of the day, we've got to reach a consensus where everybody is working and focused on the main goal. And the truth of the matter, the reason boards and councils and committees are put in place is so that you can try to bring different ideas and opinions and viewpoints to the table, but ultimately reach a goal for those that you're representing. So I think I can still remain unique and bring what I need to the table, but at the end of the day, make the decisions that are going to be best for the community as a whole, in a consensus with those that I'm working with the right information. That's key.
Right, exactly. How about you, Niccole?
Yeah, just say keep focused on the task at hand. I mean, staff has a goal and council has a goal. So this wouldn't be the first time I've had to sit around a table and discuss a difficult decision that requires compromise. But my priorities, to the city and the people who would have placed their trust in me to put me there. So I just, plan to keep a firm grasp on what that goal is and stay unswayed and unbiased.
Very good. I'd like to take just a second and shift back to businesses, because that's our focus at the Alva Manvel Area Chamber of Commerce. Are there and Edward, you touched on this a little bit in terms of keeping Manvel unique. Niccole, you touched on it with that hometown feel and the culture that creates. Are there specific types of businesses that you would like to see in Manvel? When you're talking with community members, are there certain businesses or certain industries that they mention? And just kind of more broadly, what type of vision do you have for the city?
Well, first off, to me, Manvel is very unique. We're in the corridor of 2 major highways, and we've managed to preserve our town and make slow decisions as to how it's developed. So it's really amazing. But I would like to see businesses that complement the vibe that Manvel has, that create opportunities for people to gather here within the city or broaden our event base and begin fine-tuning those experiences that we currently offer, and that families love to be a part of in their town, like the parades and festivals. I just see us keeping that warm feel that a lot of people moved here for, and not allowing, the town's vision to move away from that, even in times of booming growth.
Very good. How about you, Edward?
Yeah, I agree. Manvel is very unique, and we can capitalize up on that. you know, that small town vibe, as we call it, that small town culture, but also being able to deliver the amenities that are needed to support, you know, a certain quality of life at the same time. And so, you know, kind of market that, you know, even as you're drawing people to the community, you know, we have this culture. It's becoming very diverse. So one of the things you can look at is even an international culture. You've got residents from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, from South America. And so, you know, highlighting festivals or events and activities even around that, where you bring those cultures together and share them and educate one another. And as you can tell with me, you know, I love food. So international food culture, so the, you know, the behavior and the culture is what's going to keep us strong in our small town feel and our small town culture. And so we want to capitalize upon that and keep highlighting it. We're the city on the rise who still makes you feel like you're at home, and we can offer you everything that you need in that context.
Very good. So when you say city on the rise, what does that mean to you, Edward?
Well, literally
I
that.
would it mean different things to different people.
Well, when you look at the phenomenal growth that Manvel has experienced over these past years, I'm going to be honest, you know, well, I won't tell how long ago I graduated from high school, and I started at the University of Houston, and I used to pass by on 288. And at that time, Manvel was a flashing light that let me know that I was getting closer to the University of Houston. But now, you know, the growth, the planned development, you know, even the retail growth that has happened now and that is still planned, it's on the rise. And that could be anything. On the rise in our culture, on the rise in our economics, on the rise in our community involvement and unification. You know, really we're the city on the rise, so the sky's the limit if we plan it correctly. And we do it in a manner that's going to be beneficial to all of the residents, encompassing all of the residents of our community.
Very good. How about you, Niccole?
I guess city on the rise to me would just be, I mean, we're just sitting in just amounts of potential. You know, we, again, are just so perfectly placed. And it's funny that he said that about the flashing lights, because I remember when I was little, you know, my mom would be like, let's go to the antique store in Manvel. I'm like, all right, we're packing up for the day, you know, because that's what it felt like, because it was just so different. But we're not there anymore. And so I'm really excited for the future and what that's going to look like. For sure.
Right. It's a wonderfully challenging place to be. There are, you know, thousands of cities across our great country that would want to be in the same challenging position as the city of Manvel. And quite frankly, you know, our entire region here in the state of Texas, we're just really blessed for a lot of different reasons. But like you both have, you know, referenced, it's managing that growth and being responsible in the decisions that you made. We just have a little bit more time here, and I want to focus more back on you as individuals. Another question we wanted to make sure and cover is, obviously you're both very involved in the community, you know, through your church, through your professions, through your family, and just your daily lives. And we know that you know, our city council members, you know, while they're serving on council, have to commit an exorbitant amount of time to doing the job and doing the job well. So, you know, if elected, do you both have the time commitment expected to be involved and present, you know, as we continue to add more meetings and more workshops and, you know, just more things to your calendar to fulfill the role? And we will, we'll start with you, Niccole, on that one.
Okay, well, yeah, time management's key when you're taking on a responsibility like this. So yes, I definitely understand the commitment, and I'm ready to be available and make council one of my priorities. Good thing for me is that because I've already been serving on a board, you know, I really have had to make sure that I attend council meetings and I'm in the know and knowledgeable so that I can contribute to that board as, you know, as well as I can. So I feel like that has helped me understand what the actual requirement is.
Mm-hmm. Very good. That's a great vantage point for sure. How about you, Edward?
Yeah, likewise, key thing, time management, workload management, prioritization, and, really good planning. Um, I, I spent 20 years in the military. So we had this thing we call backwards planning. You have to plan out your calendar 120 days in advance. And, of course, there may be modifications. So when you plan your schedule and leave some flexibility for the inevitable, it can be done. I've done it for years. And, I've got a great partnership with my wife. She's very supportive of me. She believes in serving the community as well. And so she supports the work that I do. So we definitely, family is important, the church is important, but there's a way to manage it and get it all done. And so I'm committed to that.
Very good. And we know it's a family decision that you both have made to run for office, because as you referenced, it is a team sport, if you will.
Mhm.
It is.
Why don't we close with just giving you each a little bit of time to tell us what else you'd like the community to know about you, why they should to choose you as their vote for city council. And I believe we started with Niccole with the last question. So Edward, we'll start with you with this one. Okay. What else would you like us to know before we close out today?
Well, I'm very passionate about my community. I'm very passionate about people in general. I really have a heart to serve. And with that passion and that heart to serve, I make it a point to, I call myself an eternal student. So I make it a point to remain knowledgeable, continue to educate myself, continue to supplement the formal education that I have, and understand what's happening now. I'm a big student of history, so I look at historical data and use those things to forecast what we might encounter. So in me, you're going to get someone that is committed to the work. I'm very tenacious. I don't give up easy. Challenges they don't stop me. There's always a way to get it accomplished when you're committed to it and you're choosing to do the right thing, and you have the right information, the right knowledge, and the right mindset. So I'm looking forward to this city on the rise to continue to rise. And I really want to be a part of helping it to rise and rise in the right manner.
Very good. How about you, Niccole?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone, who's already shown me so much for, support. I'm just a citizen who loves my home, loves that my family's here and everyone, and I work here, and I just love the city, and I'm ready to work, for everyone in whatever way that is. Definitely in my career, I've dealt with large groups of people and had to be very organized and make sure that I was knowledgeable about what we were doing before, venturing into anything new. And so I just know that my work ethic is something that could really be beneficial for a council member, especially whenever it's backed up by, me caring so much about the outcome and the future of, where I'm going to be and where my son's growing up. But yeah, and if you'd like to get in touch with me or anyone has any questions, I just encourage you to visit my Facebook page. And yeah, I'm excited to be able to be a part of this.
Very good. Well, we really appreciate both of you. Like I said earlier when we started, just appreciate your willingness to step up and run for office and want to represent the city of Manvel. Before we close, I certainly want to remind folks of some few key dates. Obviously, this election season is a little different with regards to the municipal or the city races and those being on the November ballot. So, some folks may not realize, but when you go into the ballot box or the polling location in November, or if you choose early voting in October, you're going to be voting on elections from our presidential election all the way down to our school districts, all on that same ballot. So towards the bottom of the ballot, you will find this council race. I want to
Please don't.
encourage folks to take time and go all the way down the ballot. Today is obviously the last day to register to vote. So if you're not registered and you fill out an application today, it's got to be postmarked today. And then early voting starts next week, October 13th through October 30th. And then election day, as we referenced earlier, is Tuesday, November 3rd. So my plea would be to those watching today, joining us today, would be to make sure, obviously, to go vote and to go all the way down that ballot to find Mr. Perry and Ms. Tyson on the ballot for City of Manvel, Place 3. So with that, that's all I have. Carrie, I don't know if you have any concluding comments on behalf of the chamber.
The only thing I would like to remind our candidates and our viewers is if you have questions for our candidates, you can leave a comment and our candidates will take the time to read through those. It's a good idea. If there wasn't something that you wanted them to talk about today, you can go on our Facebook page and ask those questions anytime and they'll try and check it out. I do see there is at least 1 or 2 on there, so make sure to take advantage of this nice virtual way of interacting with our candidates today. And again, I thank you both taking the time to do this. This is such a nice way to keep our community informed about who's on their ballots. So thank you both very much for doing this.
No, thank you both.
It was
Wonderful.
a pleasure.
Y'all have a great afternoon.
You too.
too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.